There have been a number of approaches to anti-corruption, and we'll begin with the most widely used principal agent models, which have had massive influence in the field of anti-corruption at the policy level, but they haven't been very successful at all in terms of addressing corruption in high corruption contexts. So we will also discuss a number of responses, which include the social norms approaches and corruption equilibrium approaches. These have addressed some of the failures of the principal agent model, but they too haven't, in our opinion, fundamentally addressed the problem of implementation. So in a later session, we will discuss our approach, which is the power, capabilities, and interest approach, which we believe addresses some of the problems of implementation and takes us towards a feasible and impactful anti-corruption strategy. The principal agent model is one that has been extremely influential in the field of not just anti-corruption, but in a lot of areas of contract enforcement in social sciences. The idea is very simple. The principal is the person in that relationship who wants the rules to be followed, because the principal benefits from the rules being followed. The agent wants to follow the rules, but may also benefit from violating the rules, cheating a little bit on the side, free riding. And the agent usually can hide information that the principal doesn't have, and so the principal might be cheated by the agent, and this is the source of the problem. Very simply, the source of the problem here comes from the fact that the agent has information that the principal may not have. Technically, this is often described as asymmetric information. The more information that the agent has that the principal does not have, the more there might be violations that the principal isn't aware of. The assumption of the model is that the principal actually wants to stop this violation, and as soon as it's detected, the principal can stop the violation because the principal has the legal authority to stop the violation once detected. In this model, power comes from the legal authority of the principal to stop the corruption once it's detected. The implication of this model is that corruption is caused by the hiding of information. So if information became better, then corruption would decline. It also would decline if the principal had better processes of responding to this information. Therefore, the two things that follow from this model are transparency and accountability. Transparency are all those processes which improve the information available to the principal, and accountability are improvements in processes through which the principal can do something about it. Now, this model is very general, and it can be applied to a whole series of issues in developing countries. So, for example, principals could be voters. Voters elect politicians, and they pay taxes to the politicians for the politicians to deliver public goods to the voters. So the voters are the principals here, the politicians are the agents. The politicians can then hide information and use this tax money for their own benefit and not for the benefit of the citizens, and that's the source of corruption. The solution from the principal agent approach is that there should be better information about what politicians are doing. We should support the media, we should support watchdogs, we should support all kinds of processes through which information is revealed. And then we have to support the accountability processes, which means better elections, more effective punishments, better courts, better ways of dealing with violations that politicians do. But sometimes politicians could also be principals. Politicians are elected and they have to deliver things to the electorate to get re-elected. They then have relationships with bureaucrats who are supposed to deliver, but the bureaucrats may have information that the politician doesn't have, and the bureaucrat may then divert resources for their own use. So there might be another principal agent problem where the politician is being cheated by the bureaucrats who are now colluding with businesses or other individuals and diverting money in other ways. Here, the principal agent model will say, again, we need more information. We need to make those bureaucratic processes transparent. We need to have better accountability processes. We need to have processes of replacing bureaucrats quickly, of punishing them more severely, and so on. You can see that there might be a whole series of nested principal agent problems which can explain corruption. The argument of the principal agent model is that for each of these, you have to identify what sorts of transparency improvements are required and what sorts of accountability process improvements are required. The problem for the principal agent model has been that these improvements don't seem to work in developing countries in the way they work in advanced countries, for a problem that has been described in the literature as the problem of the unprincipled principle. What you find often is that the principal themselves, once they have the information, do nothing with it. And they do nothing with it either because they are colluding in the corruption themselves. The politician is actually colluding with the bureaucrat in stealing the money, so having the information doesn't help. Or you might have powerful groups of voters who want to vote for corrupt politicians because the corrupt politicians give them kickbacks. So if the principals are colluding with the agents, it fails. And you also have the problem that sometimes the principals might want to do something, but they don't have the power to do it because the legal authority doesn't give them the real power to do anything. The principal agent model fails in contexts where there's a lot of corruption and there's either collusion between principals and agents or the principals are not powerful. Now, what do you do there is not something that the principal agent problem directly answers.